Hey, happy Friday to you, Leslie.
Hey, happy Friday.
So good to meet you. Welcome back to another episode of Brand Experience Live. This is the business podcast where we dive in and explore brands and individuals that are delivering unrivaled brand experience to their candidates, employees, prospects, and buyers. Sometimes a little bit more, which I'm excited for our conversation today with Leslie Greenwood. Leslie and I met several weeks ago on LinkedIn. We were introduced to each other and we were able to have a little conversation beforehand. I love everything that she's doing. Cannot wait to get into it. She is a community strategist, chief evangelist officer of her own company called Chief Evangelist Consulting. She's also a podcast host, a startup advisor, and as her LinkedIn profile says as well, ex-stay-at-home mom, which I love. Welcome.
Thank you so much. I appreciate the warm welcome and the quick list of who I am.
Yeah, I'd love to know a little bit more about what you're doing as far as your consulting firm, just a little bit more of like who you are, what you do on a day-to-day basis, and how we're going to be helping our listeners today.
Awesome. So what I do on a day-to-day basis. Now, if you ask my husband, what I do is I talk on the phone all day, but I think he also stares at spreadsheets all day too. So we're pretty even on our misunderstanding of each other's jobs. So I work with businesses and networking organizations looking to bring community into their strategy. So if it's a networking membership-based community, we would work together. Or if it's a brand and you're looking to bring community as part of your go-to-market strategy, whether it's for acquisition or retention, support, success, there's quite a few different business outcomes that we can align to. So that's the main thing that I work on every day is just, helping my clients bring and launch an amazing community that will support their business goals.
I love that. And, I've been in brand for 11 or 12 years now. And something that is so important about brand is the power of community and relationships. And that's really what brand is. A lot of people have thought until recently-ish that brand was your logo, your colors, your website. And really that's just, a visual representation of you for recognition. But truly what it is the relationships and conversations that you're having. And the best place for that is a community. And what I've come to know too is that a community is also where evangelists are created. And I know that's something that you really love and are passionate just about, just like I am.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's one place that you can definitely grow and nurture your evangelists. So I guess maybe for the audience today is to talk a little bit about what I call an evangelist. Yeah. We have seen, there's actually this really great, trend maybe, and certain people in marketing have the title now of chief evangelist or the evangelist of their community. And I think of that as a little different. So it would be great if all of my clients and your clients, let's say, could afford a person that their job was to evangelize.
Yeah.
Many cannot. So the way I like to think about it is the average customer, your average community member who loves your product, who you've delivered a service beyond their expectation. And that's a start of your evangelist. It's like the one human that loves your brand, their experience, your service so much, they go out and talk about it. That person tells obviously someone or 10 people. They refer in their friends. Somebody that's referred in is 4 times more likely to also refer. So, creating these people that just really love the experience just from your average customers is a really great way to kind of mobilize an army of evangelists without, honestly, no hard expenses to do that. Of course, there's time and effort and love that goes into it, but no technology you need to buy to do that.
Right.
So, obviously very strongly about that. I was like, let me go. Blah, blah, blah. So yeah, I love talking about evangelists.
Yeah, and I do too. And a lot of people are also dubbing these sort of things along the lines of fitting into things like dark social as well, where a lot of the times dark social we're now seeing referred to as like the salesperson's effort for selling products. But this is a huge part of that journey as well. It doesn't matter who's talking about it. It's those things that most individuals don't really know how to measure, but you can feel it in how your brand is perceived, how many people are talking about it. Maybe people are posting about it on social media or tagging you or the company, or you're getting referrals. That's a really solid way to understand what's going on in those like dark social conversations is the referrals that you're getting in for your business, if you're able to track those. Why are you so passionate about teaching like the evangelist side of community? Like, was there a moment or something that happened where you're like, oh, this like clicked for me and I just want to share this with everyone? What exactly was it?
Yeah, I was the VP of Member Success and Advocacy at Pavilion for 2 years.
Yeah.
Global go-to-market community. We went from 2,000 to 10,000 members in 2 years. We had one team member when I started. We had 18 at one point. We launched Pavilion University, all of that. Now that happened without a lot of ad spend. So it wasn't that same way you were talking about brand. We're just going to put all this money. What we did was delivered that experience that was beyond expectation.
Yeah.
We treated the members who, maybe paid us $2,000, where normally if I were at a SaaS company, I might put you on a tech touch for $2,000 ACV. But we treated them like an enterprise customer. Everybody got a personalized call within personalized call to welcome them within one business day. Didn't matter whether you were in Singapore or Australia. They're just those little things that were beyond expectation. And what happened there was that then people were just talking about it, tagging Pavilion in posts, tagging, me in posts, tagging the founder in posts, and showing like we'd send them a baby onesie when they got a baby. If we like heard little bits and pieces, we'd send them something and they'd post. And that's really what like spurred the growth. And as I transitioned away from Pavilion last July, I was thinking about what do I want to do and what do I love? And it's this, seeing that power. I'd never used the word evangelist at that point, but like really seeing that power and how I thought everyone could have that. It wasn't anything, in my opinion, special. It was just us really doing the thing really well and enabling them to go out and talk about us. And I'm like, anybody can do that if you have the right point of view, the right attitude, and the right real focus on the customer. And if you don't mind, if I go back real quick to one of your other points, you talked about dark social, and I love all the great names that we were coming up with everything, but dark social is basically, I walk out to my mailbox, my neighbor walks over and says, I went to the new restaurant in town. It was amazing. You should try it.
Yeah.
It's what's old is new. I'm very much a big fan of this, what's old is new. And so we're calling it this fancy name and it sounds
I know.
Everything. It is seriously the same as, in the 1970s when you actually walked your mailbox because you got real mail. Now we don't get mail. So it's literally the exact same thing that we have been doing forever. We just haven't talked about it, especially in B2B.
Yes. And that's why I started this podcast, because we don't talk about brand experience at all. Like people hear brand experience and they're like, oh, it sounds like this colorful thing, but really no, it's literally how people experience your brand and what you're doing in order to elevate how they're interacting with you, your salespeople, your product, your services, your customer service, like whatever it is, it's how they feel about what you're providing. And if they feel good, that, it really does not take a lot of work to make others feel good. But we think that it does because it connects with emotion. And a lot of people don't really think about like buying is an emotional decision. So you have to hit where they're feeling it. And if they feel special from getting a quick 5-minute phone call the day after they make a purchase saying, I just wanted to call and thank you, let you know there's resources coming to you via email. We're here for you anytime. That little 5-minute thing, the ROI from that is insane. And Pavilion saw that. I've been following Pavilion since it launched, and it's been beautiful seeing how it's grown because of the experience that they're providing.
Yep. Well, I think the challenge there for people is that you can't put that emotion, and you can't, I mean, the way they talk about it on dark social, you can't put that on a board slide.
Yeah.
At least not for a little while. Now, I would say how you start measuring that is, where baseline your referrals, baseline your social mentions, then put an evangelist program in place and see, what happens from there. But yeah, no, it's really amazing. And the number of times I hear, I'm going to get on my soapbox a little bit, it's not scalable. I'm like, that's just an excuse. Everything can be scalable. And if you do it right, when I was talking earlier, you have 1, then you have 10, then you have 100, then you have 1,000. It is scalable. You just have to look at it the right way, which is probably the exact same thing you come up with when you're talking about brand experience. You're like, oh, we can't do that. That would take too much headcount.
No, and I've had these conversations a lot of the time. I've been hired on the employee side. I've always been hired as head of marketing and brand. And the first thing that I have to do is put in processes and procedures and understand, okay, what are we doing? Where are our touch points? How are our people interacting internally? How are people interacting externally? And these are just for me, it's a necessity. It's a baseline necessity is to understand where our touch points are, who is picking up the ball or passing the baton at which point in time, and just what's the playbook on that. And for me, it's common sense. So the first thing that I've always done, whether I'm an employee or I'm working with a client, is, okay, where's our playbook for how our internal processes are going and our external touch points? And that alone can enhance your brand experience because there's a plan in place, and it's not hoping that someone else understands what someone else is saying, right? Is the messaging good? Is there continuity? Is there, right? It makes a huge difference. It's absolutely scalable when you can put things into a playbook. That's the whole point, right? If you can put something in a playbook, you can hand it to another person and they can teach themselves because you've identified a process. And if you make it simple, you can report on it. Absolutely. Especially if it's something you're implementing afterwards and you've already had your community or your organization, you can say, we implemented this playbook for evangelism or brand experience, or whatever you want to call it. And you can absolutely relate it to an increase in sales or members or conversations or questions that you're getting. Renewals. Yes. Can we talk about this for a second? Actually, I'm glad that you said that word, because whether it's with a community or a subscription or a one-off product, which for me, I don't think that exists if you're doing it correctly.
True.
A lot of businesses go after, most of the time, new money, new customers, new sales, and they spend so much of their efforts, their money, their people's time on getting new customers. And we forget about the ones who are already buying from us, who are already bought in to what we're doing. And they don't focus on renewals or repurchase, or maybe you can have a subscription service.
Oh my goodness.
How often are you having this conversation?
I think many of the more mature organizations I'm dealing with, because they're mostly in B2B SaaS, they get it. They understand. Now, let's say they get it in theory. Let's put it that way. And they understand they need to put that. It's interesting. When I first started, I had a lot of conversations with early stage founders, because I thought, this theory of evangelism, this theory of, how do we treat the customer from the very moment they interact with us, needs to be an anchor of how everything goes from there. And the anchor needs to be in good times and in bad times, because unfortunately, a lot of the anchors move depending on the winds of the economy.
Mm-hmm.
But what I found with them was they didn't understand, because they just needed to get growth.
Yeah.
You know, it was all sales, because it's still founder driven sales, et cetera. And I was just trying to like, please, I even offered one guy like, please, I'll do it for free. Just let's put a playbook in place for how are you going to treat your customers post sale.
Yes.
And we didn't get there because it was very difficult. And this is definitely founder, you know, early stage founder.
Yeah.
That he couldn't even put the mental bandwidth into working with me for free to put that in place. And, you know, I see that all the time. I spoke to a customer yesterday, actually, and they have a small customer base. They're bringing in a little bit of new sales, but they're losing the same amount every month. So they're flat. And our supposition is that if we build a community around this that will influence their retention, because we've created stickiness, we created extra value, we've had more touch points with the customer success team, then we can start seeing growth by putting the new people on top. But I mean, if you think about it, if all you're doing is, you know, bringing in new people, but people are flying out the door, you're not going to see any difference in your recurring revenue.
Yeah.
It just, that kills me. I can, because I also have a customer success background. So the adding those two together and hearing those kind of things, I'm just like, I just can't.
Yeah. And I've seen that everywhere that I've worked. Almost every client that I've ever worked with is, and I don't know what it is mentally that it's fear for sure driving this, but I've never really been able to get to the root cause of it. I know a lot of the employers that I've worked with, it's because of their value on their salespeople, and that they've set up a lot of their salespeople to just close a sale, and there's no there's no deeper relationship that they implement there for their salespeople, because they pass it on.
Right.
So I know that at least for a lot of my past employers and several larger clients that I've worked with, it's this fear of like, well, what are our salespeople going to do? Like, they're not going to want to work with us if we're having them do customer service, and we're like, but for me, like, I started out my career in sales, and this is why I love brand experience so much, is because I was able to have those conversations and create the relationships with my customers. And those were my greatest customers, is the ones that like I kept just like having recurring revenue with, or they would send me to someone else and I could literally say, oh, Sally Joe down the street sent me over here because she's been working with me for 6 months and loves us, and then immediate trust.
Yep.
And it helped so much. And then I just got to talk to people. But I've found, at least with organizations I've worked with, they just don't think about it that way. And it makes me really sad.
Yeah. Yeah. And, you know, it doesn't have to be, if they don't have a customer, like, let's say they're not in SaaS and they don't have a customer success department, all that can happen through customer service. It can happen through customer support. I worked every job. When I got into startup land for the first time, I was tier 1 support. Like, I answered the phone. They called me the voice of Commissions Inc. because I answered every inbound phone call, which was mostly tier 1 support.
Yeah.
I made relationships answering support. So
but you have to, if you're going to help an organization, like truly help them. And I've done the same thing everywhere that I've worked. Like, I want to be in every position. I want to talk to everyone in every role. I want to do it. I want to listen. I want to ask questions, because I can't do my job creating a better brand experience for our new customers and our current customers if I don't know the conversations that are going on.
Yep.
I love that you do that.
Guess where you'll find your first evangelist? They're your frequent flyer support person. You know, the customer that calls over and over again. Now, sometimes they're crunchy. That's not going to be your evangelist. They got something to say about everything. We've all had them. I know you all have had it. But the ones that call and like, well, what about this? Or I had a suggestion. Guess what? There's your evangelist. There's the person you put with you to talk about what their experience is, so that you can build more things around them. We make them feel great. We make them feel special. then they go tell their friend, then they go post on social. And it can be as simply as something like that. But of course, then departments have to talk to each other. It has to be a focus of the business. And we have to really be customer centric. I mean, we all talk about it, but I'm only guess that 10% of people actually do it, to be quite honest.
Yeah.
So I'm going to be controversial, but all the customer first places.
Yeah. And I've seen that as well. And I love that you brought up, like, your number one evangelist is probably the person that's constantly calling. My best customers in like history of my career have been the angry ones. And it's not that like they're actually angry. It's that like they care and they don't know how to communicate. True. Because no one has taken the time to understand them or to fix their problems. They're not actually, the anger is just care in a different form. And if you're able to address that, then it's likely that that's going to fix a lot of problems for your future customers, for your current customers and buyers and community members, because like that's just that one person wanting to speak up. You know, like if there's one person willing to speak up, there's 100 people behind them who are afraid but have the same exact question or concern.
I'm really glad you said that. I just want to double down that the frustration or anger is just caring, and it may be misplaced, you know, and because that's true. I'm not going to call you. Seriously, one, I'm never going to call you. If you don't have customer support over text or a chat bot, like I'm not going to call you. But if I do call you and I'm frustrated, then I do care enough to call you and spend my time. So, I mean, I think that's a great way to look at that.
And I think a lot of the times that can solve a lot of problems, whether it's within our communities, whether it's within the workplace, with our customers and buyers, if it's in our relationships, like any kind of relationship, they're all the same. Like to me, I treat them all the same. It's still like two people interacting, trying to come to common understanding of something for a greater goal. And I think that when we flip our minds to think like, how would I communicate in my personal relationships, or how would I prioritize this in a different type of relationship, and we treat it all the same, it helps to enhance like every single relationship and opportunity that we have when we just like get out of our minds of, oh, well, the customer's not right, or the customer is always right, but my like spouse or my friend is not. And it's at least changed my life by thinking about a person as a person, regardless of what their role in your life is.
True. And I think even just the words we use, we dehumanize that sales relationship. You know, they're a lead, they're a prospect, they're a human trying to solve a problem. And you have the opportunity to help them do that, which is, you know, kind of fun if you think about it.
It's human to human. And we hear that sometimes.
It's becoming popular. It's becoming popular.
It is. It's funny because I talk about some things where now they're like starting to have conversation, right? Like human to human and brand and stuff like this. But I've been waiting 12 years for people to finally like have the light bulb go on. And I'm like, yes, I've been preaching this for 12 years and no one was ready for it. And now we're kind of getting ready for it. We're starting to be ready for it. And it makes me so happy to see people having the conversations, because the first step to change and solving problems and making things better is to have the conversations and to talk about it. We're finally at step one. And it's just, it makes me so happy. And thinking of that, another thing that you do that I just like love, if we could pivot for like 2 seconds, because
you're the boss, whatever you say.
It's no, never. You have this group community that you've also, like an additional one that you've been a part of, that it speaks so closely to me, because my target audience and the people who I really want to help, like closest to my heart, are women trauma survivors who are also either executive leaders or entrepreneurs. And for me, it's just so important to target someone who's like me, right? They understand my emotions, me as a woman, the things that I go through, the roles that I play in different areas of my life. And I love that you've taken something along these same lines and you've started with several other people, Wednesday Women. And I'd love to just like highlight on that a little bit more.
Yeah, thank you so much. Well, yeah, Wednesday Women is funny. It started as, I think I made a post just saying, where are the women CEOs in my feed? I need to know them. Who are they? Because my feed is looking pretty homogenous. And that post blew up. I think it was the biggest post ever. All these women supporting other women, shouting at other women, comments, bringing in other women, etc. And so what I ended up deciding to do with that is hiring someone from Fiverr, go in and scrape every one of those names off my post.
Yeah.
Their name, their LinkedIn, where they're located, etc. I think I started with like 50 people on there. And then when I'd see the next post, someone else saying, who are the executive women I should be following? And then I'd go have the Fiverr guy scrape that. We're up to 500 women that have been somehow nominated through feeds, at least that only, honestly, they're just the ones I see. And Melissa Moody, who is the CMO and co-founder of Gated, made a post as well. And I'm like, hey, here's this list. And we just got to talking, and she's like, would you like to talk about maybe getting that off a list and doing something with it? Because really it was just living in my Google Drive, minus when I would drop it everywhere on, posts. And I'm like, yeah, let's talk about that. And so we chatted, and Wednesday Women was born. Every week we highlight 1 to 2 executive women leaders. And, it's more than just their title, because we can find that on LinkedIn. It's, what would your TED Talk be about? Will we hear you talking about on LinkedIn? And then advice to someone that's coming up in their career following you. And then we also capture a little known fact that we drop later once the posts get enough likes and comments and reposts, just to like really humanize the women. Part of this also was born is, I just saw a post yesterday that was like, this gentleman refuses to be on panels if it is not diverse, if there's not at least one woman on there, or, a person of color. And so he just turned down. I'm like, in my mind, there is no excuse for that. And we are going to build something. And I have a list of 500 of them. I'm also putting these spotlights out, multiple times per week. So if you need a keynote speaker, if you need your next C-level person, if you, just want more visibility into what these women are doing that is so amazing, launching companies, being CROs when they were a teenage mother, all of this stuff, then, just come to Wednesday Women and we will help you find them. It is really just in service to the women to give them more visibility and hopefully some opportunities for them. And sorry, I got super passionate. You can tell I'm super passionate about that.
No, I love it.
But
and you should be.
Yeah. We're just brand new. It's a passion project. She and I do it on nights and weekends, and making Canva and writing posts and all that kind of stuff. So that's where we're starting, and really just going to work on creating something even more in the future.
I love that. I love that you're literally explaining me right now. I just did the same thing. I recently I did a post because I'm passionate about helping to create more opportunities for women as well, whether, especially like trauma survivors, or, people who have been through that sort of situation. And I made a post recently on LinkedIn of like, I need to be connected to more women who are executive leaders or business owners who specifically are looking to enhance opportunities and increase opportunities for other women. And that post, like, same experience, that post blew up as well. I had 80 people tagged in that post, and I was like, this is too much for me. I went to Fiverr. I did the same thing. I was like, take this post, get all of this information for me, get more information, because I also I want to highlight them on my podcast. If they have a podcast, I want to be on theirs. Like, I want us to talk about each other so that we can enhance our opportunities for each other. This is we should be doing this. And it's something that I'm super passionate about as well. I have another podcast, which is, it started out as a diary, basically a mental health podcast diary, just telling my experience as a woman who's also a trauma survivor, who's, living with complex PTSD, and I'm an entrepreneur, I'm a mom, right? I'm all of these things to everyone else, but talking about my journey of finding who I am for me. And through this process, I've had amazing conversations from women reaching out to me about like, well, how did you start your business? Or I don't have time for this. And then I'm like, okay, I need to focus on women, right? And really focusing on how do we enhance our opportunities. And even though we're very far behind the men, right? We've only had almost equal opportunity to men for 50 years, right? 50 years ago, I couldn't even have my own mortgage. 50 years ago, I wouldn't be able to be a single mom, literally because of the law. So within the last 50 years, looking at the change that we've been able to make in the world, some of the most successful countries in the world are now run by women. It's like, there's something here. We need to uplift each other and support each other and show how easy it is when we understand the simple things that are at the tips of our fingers, just to enhance our world a little bit through this community. I love what you're doing. It's the same like journey that I'm on. I love talking about this.
We both do. Well, and to take this full circle back to evangelism, that's what we're doing. We're evangelizing for women to have more opportunities in the workforce or outside of the workforce. And hopefully we'll create an experience for those women that they'll also want to talk about it, which then, like it's just this like never ending circle of growth if we do it right. So
yeah, I love it. I'm excited for you. And I'm now following Wednesday Women on LinkedIn. I'm going to put up one more time on here for anyone who wants to give them a follow. You just search Wednesday Women on LinkedIn. There's a little blue logo. I went through this exercise with Leslie, so I know how to find them. And just one more thing before we wrap. I always like to end with a really simple, actionable tip that our listeners who are primarily small business owners or very, very, very early stage startup, that they can take from this conversation today and implement today into their own business as far as what we've talked about. What is like one super simple tip that someone could do today to now enhance their brand experience and create more evangelists for their business?
Can I give you two simple tips?
Absolutely.
One is, if you said earlier, if you gather referral data, easiest thing, folks, on your intake form, how did you hear about us? Open space, not a drop down. Maybe the answer is Ashley. Maybe the answer is John Doe. Maybe the answer is LinkedIn or Twitter or TikTok. That's fine. But I want the opportunity for them to be able to put a name in there so that we can read that and go back to it later. So that's super simple. Change your form, folks. The other thing is like, where do you find your evangelists? The first place would be, if you have a community, look at your login data, see who's logging in. They may not be the ones that are talking all the time, but they're the ones that are logging in 3 times a week and they're learners. So they value your content. If you have a product, use your Pendo or usage data and figure out who's using it every day. Let's talk to those people. And then the last one, survey data. If you run an NPS, I really don't care what the score is, but why did they say they gave you a 10 or a 9? What's that? Who are those people? And we should be having a conversation with those people. Or let's talk to your detractors. If they wrote something down, that's really the key for me is, did they write something down? And then how do we use that or expand upon that to start cultivating these evangelists? So two little tips.
I love it. I love it. And I could have a totally different conversation just on those tips. I'm so grateful for you. I'm going to be putting Leslie's LinkedIn information up on the screen. Please connect with Leslie. Whether you are an entrepreneur who is a woman, you are an executive leader that's a woman, you want to increase your opportunities for other women, you're a small business owner, startup, you have a community, I feel like you are a Swiss Army knife for experience and evangelism, and you have so much value. I think that everyone should be connected with you and start a conversation. I'm just so thrilled that we were able to meet. And I'm grateful for you being on today.
Oh, it's been great. I mean, I love this. This is the serendipity of LinkedIn conversations and community in general, the connections that you make. So thank you very much for the kind words. I accept them and appreciate it. Love to make new connections. So happy to connect with any of the viewers.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much, y'all, for joining another episode of Brand Experience Live. If you are an individual or representation of a brand who's delivering an unrivaled brand experience for your prospects, buyers, employees, or candidates, please reach out to me. I'd love to have a conversation about having you on and teaching everyone else how they could have the same success that you are. Until next week, have a fantastic weekend.
Thank you.